Welcome to lesson 1.2. In this lesson, we're going to add negatives to negatives. In the problems in 1.1, which you should have completed, including the homework, before attempting this lesson, we added one of the numbers was positive and the other was negative, and we added them together. Now both numbers are going to be negative. So there's our warm-up. Again, the warm-up should be review, either from this review is review of 1.1, but sometimes it'll be a review of last year or 5th grade even. But everyone should be able to do the warm-up. Go ahead and do it. So we learned that opposites, like negative 24 and positive 24, always add up to 0. What was the name of that property that said so? It was the inverse property of addition. So there's an example of the inverse property. Negative 24 plus positive 26, therefore, has to be positive 2. There are 2 extra positives there, right? 24 plus negative 26 must be negative 2. There must be 2 extra negatives. Now, number 4 is from elementary school. When you see that in a warm-up from me, it's usually a clue for the next one. Number 5 is what we're doing today. And I'm hoping some of you can already do number 5 before we even get to it. So try number 4 and 5. Well, if you add 24 positives to 26 positives, right, that's an adding symbol, right? If you add those together, hopefully a lot of you could do this in your head, you get 50. And you get 50 positives. Nothing cancels out. I don't want to draw 24 positives and 26 positives, but you get 50 positives. So what happens if you get 24 negatives plus 26 negatives? Well, you get negative 50. All right, and that's what we're learning today. But hopefully if you have positives and positives, you just get more of them. No canceling out like last time. And if you have negatives plus negatives, same thing. You get more negatives. So that's what we're doing today. So if you owe $3 to a friend and you owe $5 to another friend, how much do you owe them both? Well, you owe them both $8. A total of $8 is what you owe. Okay, so negatives plus negatives equal negatives. Now, somewhere in your mind, you're thinking that negatives plus negatives make positives. That's a multiplying rule, not an adding rule, not what we're doing today. Negatives plus negatives, you get more negatives. All right, so we drew them yesterday. We're going to draw them again. I bet you can guess what to do. So if you have 5 negatives plus 2 negatives, what goes in the last box? 7 negatives. Negative 5 plus negative 2 is negative 7. There's no canceling. There's no positives involved, right? We're adding negatives. So do this one. So negative 5 plus negative 6 is negative 11. So just like last lesson, just write the problem down. You don't have to copy this. So negative 2 plus negative 4 equals negative 6. Oh, speaking of copying, you do not need to copy that instruction down, all right? Evaluate the expression means find the answer. It's literally going to say it on the screen over 1,000 times this year. You do not want to copy something 1,000 times. You don't need to. What you need to do is show your work. That's what I care about, okay? If you like, and you may organize your work any way you want. My lessons are very organized in the PowerPoints. You can organize them exactly the same way, or you can organize them your own way. But I want to see work, not just answers, right? So when you hand this in, and if I just see -6 and I don't see this other part, you're going to lose points. Please understand that. Show your work. So copy. So don't need that. What you need to copy is this, and then tell me the answer. So if we have 31 negatives and 53 negatives, well, 31 plus 53 is 84. We must have 84 negatives, right? If you owe $31 to one person and you owe $53 to another, you owe a total of 84. So you're at -84. And notice I'm using an equal sign here correctly. This amount is the same as this amount, just written in a simpler form. That's called evaluating an expression. This was an expression, and this is its valuation. So here we have 3 negatives. Now those are not opposites, right? If you owe 25 to one person, you owe 25 to another, you owe 50 total. And if you owe 50 plus another 10, you owe a total of 60. Could you have added those in any order you want? Yes, you're allowed to add things in any order you want. Some of you might see a shortcut here. Right? We could go 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 8 is 24, and so on. But what's a shortcut? Write it down. Right? We have a shortcut called multiplying. There are 5 of those -8s. Well, 8 times 5 is 40. So what's 5 times -8? Right? This is another way of writing 5 times -8. And notice, this must be -40, right? If you owe $8 to 5 different people, you owe a total of 40. I prefer to think of it that way than trying to memorize some rules. All right? If you owe 5 people $8, you owe 40. So 5 times -8, -40. Now we'll do multiplying as a lesson another day. All right, so the identity property of addition says that adding 0 to a number will not change it. So what does -217 plus 0 have to be? Well, it has to be -217. So therefore, x plus 0 has to be x. Right? You already knew this property. We already learned this property yesterday, inverse property, which said you add opposites, you get 0. Here also starts with the letter I, so people get confused. But this property says you add 0 to a number, it stays the same. You already knew that. You're just learning the name of it. It's called the identity property of addition. Fill in the blank. Well, the only number that can go in that blank is -x, or the opposite of x, right? Because blank plus 0 equals -x. The only thing that can go there is that. Nothing else will make it true, will make that statement true. So Andrew has no money with him, and he owes $49 to one friend, Mike, and he owes $56 to another friend, Gary. Well, he's got less than 0, right, because he's got nothing, and he owes money to people. But exactly how much money does he really have? Well, he's got -$105, right? Because he owes $105 total and has nothing of his own. All right, so now it says mixed examples. And what does that mean? It means I'm combining lesson 1.1 and lesson 1.2. So there's now the 2 days are mixed together. And so practice here. Which one is which? Well, -43 plus +50 is +7. That's where things are canceling out. That's yesterday. -43 plus -50, 43 plus 50 is 93. This is -93. So So try those two side by side, see the difference. This one is positive 85 because two of these negatives cancel out two of those positives. This one is negative 89, right? If you owe 87, then owe another 2. You owe a total of 89. Right? So we have the 2 days side by side. All right, so you're adding a mix of positive and negatives there. You can do it in any order you want. So you could add the negatives together first. Negative 23 plus 7, right? That's 30, or negative 30, right? Because they're both negative. And negative 30 plus positive 8, that's from yesterday. 30 minus 8 is 22 after you borrow. And so the answer is 22. So I added the negatives first. That's what I tend to do, but sometimes it's not the easiest. Could you have also done negative 23 plus 8 first? Yes, I'll do it that way. So negative 23 plus 8, well, 23 minus 8, I think it's a little harder there, but that's 15, but 15 negatives, right? Negative 20, there's 15 extra negatives there, plus negative 7. Oops, did I not write the negative on the last one? Oh, bad, Mr. Ben. So, both ways you get negative 22. Okay, but you may add in any order you want. Could you have added 8 plus negative 7 first? Yes, and you'd get positive 1. Then you do negative 23 plus 1 and get negative 22. So try this one. Well, I think it's easier to add negative 3 plus negative 7 and get negative 10 first. Then do 52 plus negative 10 and get positive 42, right? 52 positives plus 10 negatives is positive 42. If you try it the other ways, you should get the same answer. All right, so in 8th grade, we're going to do the first half of what traditionally is Algebra 1. So we're going to be doing lots of things with variables, right? Letters are called variables. Please take notes on that. That's what the letters are called. So the variable here, x, is negative 13. The math is no harder. You take the negative 13, you put it wherever x is. And so x plus negative 17 here, where the variable is x, and it equals negative 13, then you add the 13 plus 17, and it's 30, but it's 30 negatives. Try that one. So that is negative 4. So we've learned the inverse property, the identity property, and here's a third one. It's called the commutative property. And again, you already know this property. It says that you can add things in any order. Right? In first grade, you learned that 4 plus 6 equals 6 plus 4. That was learning the commutative property. It means you can switch things around. Notice it's commutative. There are 2 T's in it, and please say it out loud, commutative. So that means 3 plus negative 5 must have the same answer as negative 5 plus 3. Right? These are both negative 2. So evaluate negative 16 plus 12 and 12 plus negative 16. Well, this one is negative 4 because there's 4 extra negatives, and this one is negative 4 because there's 4 extra negatives. With variables, same rule. So they're both negative there. And since we know the commutative property now, we know if you switch the problem around, it still has to have the same answer. So does this mean that x plus y will always have the same answer as y plus x? Yes, it does. What property says so? Say it out loud. It is the commutative property of addition. There is a multiplication version of this as well. X plus y always equals y plus x. So we're at practice. Notice it says mixed practice, so that means there's the 2 different days together. Do them all yourself. I'll put up the answers. Notice you had to put the 39 up top there when you subtract. Oh, positive 15. Sorry, that's positive 15. So we're adding 0 to negative 25 and it stays negative 25. That's the identity property of addition. You can just write identity, it's allowed. X plus y always equals y plus x is what? It's the commutative property. Thanks very much. See you at the next lesson.